This video will provide a fairly comprehensive overview of the Ip4100 Dect solution from Toshiba in the UK here, and the presentation has been put together by my American colleague Eric Abbing, who I will hand over to now. Thank you, Eric.
We'll talk a little bit today about some different features and functions and the benefits of cordless technology and using the Dect solution, and the benefits of Ip4100. A little bit about the different product packages, how they're packaged individually, and then group packaging, as well as some of the accessories that we have and the availability. This is the Ip4100 Dect solution. So it's designed to give mobility in the SMB, enterprise, and retail markets. So it's when you have a customer that requires some sort of mobility, like maybe a retailer, we see a lot of uptake in automobile car lots, retail applications, and even enterprise applications where you have people that just need to be mobile within their building and be readily available. And not everybody uses, an iPhone with a soft phone application that ties into their PBX or their IP-PBX. I do realize that's a big feature in office mobility. But specifically for like retail, I don't think you're going to see a retailer, wanting to push everyone using either their iPhone device or their Android device on the job in a retail store where they have a cordless device that allows them to move about the sales floor and the back room efficiently, and it's tied in directly with the PBX that's on site there. So we do give the customers the ability to freely roam. And we can talk a little bit more about some of the ranges and that kind of thing in a future slide here. If you look at this slide here, on the right-hand side, you have all these technologies that all operate within this 2.4 range. The old 2.4 telephones, you've got Bluetooth, operates in 2.4 gig. Wi-Fi is in that range as well. And so is microwave. If you go pop a bag of popcorn in your microwave, it's emitting 2.4 gigahertz RF radiation out of the microwave, and that will actually destroy a Wi-Fi signal or anything else in that particular range. And on a side note, I've noticed in my own home, I use these compact fluorescent lights in my quote-unquote man cave, and I've noticed that when I turn those on, it also degrades. So there's some emission coming from, at least my compact fluorescent lights that I'm using in my home does emit some interference in that 2.4 gig spectrum. With Dect, that 1.9 to 1.92 to 1.93 gigahertz frequency range that you see there on the left, that is dedicated to nothing but Dect technology. So there will be nothing to interfere with it. So you can it will ensure that your customers have a more pleasant listening experience. You're not worrying about, did you walk into someone's Bluetooth range and it killed half of your signal on your Wi-Fi, voice over Wi-Fi connection, and now you're hearing a bunch of jitter. So the reason we stick with Dect is because it is made just for voice communication within that spectrum, and there is no interference. So system overview, so you've got the handset, you see there on the left, and then the base unit. So if we have one base unit in let's say an SMB, a small office maybe, you can register 30 handsets to that one base unit. And you can register multiple base units. So we can support up to 40 base units per network segment, and then we can support up to 200 handsets across that same network segment. We have the ability, whenever we do, if there's a software upgrade that needs to go to the handset, we can do that via the over the wire or over the air. So we can send it from the base unit down to the handset without having to have a physical wired connection. And the best thing about the solution is the seamless roaming that we offer between the base units. So in where I'm at, I'm on the third floor of a mid-rise building in Dallas, and we have about 4 access points on our floor. I can grab my handset and I can walk anywhere on our floor with it, making a conversation, and never notice when the call gets handed off between a access point or a base unit. So it's do is we create a similar environment to what you have with cellular. It's just a different infrastructure that we're using, but the end result to the person on the phone is the same as you are. Hopefully, it's the same or better than what you have with the cellular used today. So you can see how the base units all tie together across the LAN. They do require power over Ethernet. If you're deploying one device in a small office, they may not have a power over Ethernet switch on their LAN. You can use an off-the-shelf power over Ethernet injector. So talk a little bit about the markets. So I mentioned early, real key markets for this product is retail. I know Toshiba has landed some very nice retail business with this. SMB, small office, education. We can take our access points and deploy them all over, most schools and be able to cover an entire school or an entire campus with access points to offer, seamless roaming across the whole campus. We've seen some uptake also in the hospitality markets, where typically they'll use like a Motorola VHF radio. Then they'll give them to their housekeeping staff, right? So the problem with that is they only have the communication between one. It's more of a one-to-one solution there. So what we've seen with some of the folks in the hospitality market is that they're implementing our solution, and now they can conference in two people to talk to someone on the housekeeping team or maintenance team, and as long as they're on their property, they can remain in coverage. And it's a little bit less expensive than the two-way radio solution. Also, auto dealerships have always been a really good customer for cordless telephones. And then of course office mobility. I am not at my desk all day long, but I'm normally, when I'm in the office, I'm jumping around from maybe in engineering or marketing or in the boss's office. And for me, it's great to be able to take that phone and go with me and know that I have the ability to take a call anywhere in the office. So some of the benefits, it's the ease of deployment. There's no dedicated server required for this solution. We have a competitor in this particular product field. I won't name their name, but they make a very good product, but they require a dedicated server be on that LAN to handle all the calls, whereas we do not require a dedicated server. We offer the seamless handoff between the base units and no audible quality loss during the roaming process. So what you hear, it doesn't. If you move away from one and the changeover happens between the access points, you do not notice anything. So it's not like the audio quality drops and then you hear a click and then you're on the next base. It's seamless. You could, in a small office environment, you could have one base unit. You could register 30 handsets to that base unit, but the limitation is that you can only have 8 simultaneous conversations per base. So you need to keep that in mind. And the bases, multiple base sets deployed on a LAN will give you load balancing capabilities. So if I'm within range of two base units and the base unit that I'm currently on is beginning to get crowded, it can automatically switch over to the base unit that has less traffic on it. We have built in a site survey tool into the handset, so when you're deploying access points in whatever the environment is, SMB or a retail environment, you can place an access point, you can lay it on a desk or hang it on a nail on the wall, and then with your handset go into site survey mode and walk away from the access point, and you can find out where the end of the range is. So if you're deploying multiple access points and you want to know where the second access point goes, you use that site survey tool to walk in a more or less of a radius from the first access point, and then before you get to the edge of your range, that's where you would place your second access point. So it's in its most simplest deployment, that's how you would use the site survey tool. And of course, it's Toshiba Green, which should be a selling factor to a lot of your customers. So the installation, basically you connect the base unit to the LAN using you need a PoE switch or a injector in there. You get the base IP address using the handset. You go into the search tool and it'll show you the IP address of that particular base. Log into the base unit using your web browser. Enter the time server stamp or address and the SIP server information. Configure the extensions and register the handset. Basically, that's it, and you're up and going. You can make calls from there. And then if you're going to be adding multiple base units, then you'll go into the advanced settings and you'll enable the multi-cell and give it a chain ID. And that just identifies the whole, this new network that we're creating is all identified by this chain ID, and that tells us which base units are where and how they talk to each other. So the accessories that are available, now when the phone ships, it comes with the charger base you see on the right, the charger adapter that's right next to it, the belt clip, and the battery. Those are, excuse me, those are all standard and in the box with a handset. So Toshiba has all of these in their accessory catalog. So the leather case is an add-on accessory, and if you're in any type of a rugged environment, I highly recommend that leather case. And then the batteries, heavy users may go through batteries, but depending on how much they use it, it's going to depend on what the battery life is like. Another thing is in that charger base on the back side of it, if you see there's a little tab sticking up. Right behind that tab is actually an extra slot to charge a spare battery. So if you have someone that phone's being used a lot, they may want to keep a hot spare battery there. So there's a place there to keep a spare battery charged in that. And then you'll see the ceiling mount. There's the ceiling mount. So, and actually in our facility, we do mount these on the ceiling. We have suspended ceiling in here, so it's easy to run the wires of Ethernet cable above the ceiling. And then that bracket mounts to the base unit. You'll see there on the left is your part numbers for each of the individual accessories and parts for the phone.
And one of the most common questions was, did we have a case for this thing? And I guess for a very long time, people didn't realize that there is an Ip4100 LEATHER part number, which is the leather case for the Ip4100 Dect phone, which was shown on the previous screen.
So the other thing I want to point out here on this slide, Eric, is, and I know we have a slide that talks about it at the very bottom one, the Ip4100 Start Kit. So that includes 3 phones in one base. So for a small office environment, it can be an all-in-one package right there. And I think, is there a financial incentive, Eric, for the folks to buy that Start Kit?
Definitely. Actually, they're gaining one phone.
So you basically get a free handset when you buy it that way, right?
That's correct.
So there's 3 different packages. So one is Ip4100 Dect, which is the handset, so it comes separately. And then the other is the Ip4100 base, which is the Dect base station, and it is packaged separately, and they can be ordered individually. And then the starter kit, which we just mentioned, has 1 base unit and 3 handsets. One of the things that we're coming out with next is it'll be the same technology, work with the same base unit, but it's a new handset that's going to be a ruggedized handset. Some of the things we talk about on the new phone is an IP65, which is IP stands for ingress protection. So it is dust-proof and waterproof. And there's an agency out there that gives the standards of what these ratings mean. It's obvious what a dust rating is, right? So either dust gets in or dust doesn't get in. But the water rating is how waterproof is it? But IP65 on the water rating means that it could be sprayed with a jet of water. So in other words, not just dropping it in the toilet, but if you had a garden hose nozzle and sprayed the phone with it, it should survive that level of water ingress. So it's going to be a very sturdy solution, 2-inch color screen, a shockproof housing on it. So we test at 2 meters, 6 foot. so it should be guaranteed to not break when you drop it from 6 foot. So we're also targeting some new market segments with this phone. One is the medical market, as well as a correctional facility market. So in those two markets, this new feature will be applicable to these new markets. It's called a man-down support. So there's a couple of things that you can do. One is there's a hot button on the top of the phone. So if you're wearing this phone on your belt, and if you got into a situation where you needed to place a phone call, you pre-program the phone with whatever number that you want to designate as your emergency number. And maybe it's the front desk, or maybe it's the security guard, or, you know, if it were in the school, maybe it's the principal. Whatever the environment is, you're going to have one go-to number. It's not 911. I mean, it could be 911, but it's most likely not. It's you're trying to get local help. You can press this button on the top of the phone, and the phone will automatically go off hook in speakerphone mode and dial that number. So now you can have a conversation without using your hands. So if you're medical and you're doing hands-on treatment to a patient, you can still have this conversation. If you're a prison guard and you're in the struggle with an inmate, you can still have this conversation. So that's part of it. The other is the alarm generation, which you'll see down 3 or 4 bullets down. You can set the alarm generation to key an alarm under certain circumstances. So you can set it up to say, well, if the phone, if I'm knocked off of a forklift and laying on the ground, and then the phone will be at a certain angle for more than 10 seconds, it will start emitting a loud tone. And if I don't acknowledge that tone to shut it off, it's going to automatically go off hook in speakerphone mode and dial that predetermined number in there. So you can do it during that man-down scenario. You could also set it up to where if it detects a lot of commotion, so, you know, I'm a prison guard and I get into a quick scuffle with someone and the phone's being shaken around, it's going to emit that tone, and if I don't hit the button to quiet it, it will go off hook and dial that number. And then there's also a attachable pull cord that can be attached to the phone, so that if the phone is on your waist and if someone were to grab the phone and pull it away from you, it will also go into that off hook and dial mode. Also, there will be an optional Bluetooth support. So in that we haven't determined yet whether the Toshiba model will have the Bluetooth embedded or not. It's just we're offering a Bluetooth enabled phone and one without it. So Eric and I will talk through it with all the rest of the Toshiba team and decide if the Bluetooth is something that you guys want to bring on. Talked about the alarm key, alarm generation. It does support SMS messaging. There will be required to have a separate SMS server on site for the phones to support SMS messaging. And then the battery talk time is really incredible on this one. It's 12 hours talk time, 200 hours standby. So long battery life. Ambient noise reduction. So if you're in a noisy environment, maybe it's a manufacturing facility, so the technology is built in that it reduces that ambient noise and focuses on the frequencies of your voice. Another addition to this will be the micro SD card for handset exchange. So in the event you have maybe you have a 24-hour environment and you have 2 shifts or 3 shifts, but you only have one phone, you know, for each shift. Each person's credentials can be loaded on an SD card, so when they come in, their SD card goes into that handset, and now when they place calls, it shows their caller ID or their credentials or their information. Their phone book memory is on that card. So that's one use for the micro SD card. The other is, should a phone get rolled over by a steamroller or forklift, you can take the SD card out, assuming it didn't get crushed, and place it in a new handset to quickly deploy a replacement handset.
All right, so let's see if we have any questions here, Brett. Brett, they are asking, what is the range on an IP4100, the phone from the base? How far can you walk?
The range of the handset from the base is about 300 meters. That's an open space. So when you bring it into a building, it's going to be less than 300 meters. And everybody wants to know what that is. Well, it's going to depend. Are your walls made out of metal? Are they made out of concrete? Are they made out of wood? You know, all of those things become barriers to the signal. So the more of those that there are, the less the signal will go. For the most part, most deck technologies all go approximately the same distance. There's no real secret sauce or anything super proprietary. There are some things you can do to improve range. One of the real keys with our solution is when you run out of range, you add another base. So you can do that 40 times. So there's most places we'll be able to cover with multiple base units.
And that ends this overview of the Toshiba Ip4100 Dect. I'd like to thank Eric for providing the content, and if you have any further questions, then please contact one of the Toshiba salespeople in the UK. Thank you very much.